I get overwhelmed so easily. My anxiety creeps inside of me, makes it hard to breathe. What's come over me feels like I'm somebody else.
Hello guys. This is the Orange Hokage here, and today we are going to start a brand new series called, What If Naruto Was Neglected by His Family Part 1. So now let's get right into the story. Kyuubi attacks like normal, but this time the third Hokage sacrifices his life instead of the fourth. Kushina has twins, Naruto and Naruto. Naruto becomes the Jinchuriki and the village is safe. Time skip to 5 years later. A little blonde boy was running away from the mob of fork sticks and torches. Die demon and other various similar things were said to the boy. The boy had tanned skin with bright blonde hair. He was covered in bruises and cuts. He ran and ran as fast as he could, but there is only so much that a 5-year-old could do. So they finally caught up and beat him up. October 10th was the Kyuubi festival, and as others like to call it, the fox hunt. Every day on the little boy's birthday, he would undergo the same thing, not that they didn't beat him every day, by this day was always the worst. Being the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, the boy was seen as the demon itself, in human form. This boy was the son of the fourth Hokage and the Red Habanro. And yet they never treated him any better than the villagers. While their son was getting beaten by the villagers, they were celebrating the daughter's 5th birthday at the festival, not aware of someone missing. After the beating was over, the boy had enough. He didn't want to live anymore. He hated the village, his sister and especially his parents for never believing him of the villagers' harassment. He took one of the kunai that were lying there and limped to the then deserted park. "If nobody wants me, then I'll grant their wish," he said aloud. He took the kunai, and went to stab himself in the neck, only to be stopped by a girl. She was shocked that a little boy his age was thinking about committing suicide. "What do you think you're doing? Why do you want to kill yourself?" she asked. The looked at her in shock as well. He wasn't expecting anyone to be there, let alone stop him from killing himself. "This village wants me died, don't you know? So don't stop me and leave me alone. Sorry, but I might be new to this village, but why do they hate you? You look like a sweet little boy who wouldn't harm anyone. Can you please tell me?" the girl pleaded. The girl was no older than 9 years old and she had wanted to talk to him. She actually cared about him. He looked at her and started to cry. She held him, and he felt warm, something he had never felt before. So he told her about his family and the villagers, and said that he didn't know why the villagers called him a demon, while his sister was seen as a hero. He told her that he wanted them to train him along with his sister, but was always declined. He would always be locked out, and left out of everything. After he finished, he looked at the girl who was at tears due to his story. She couldn't believe that such a sweet-looking boy went through so much. When he saw her tears, he only cried more. "She crying for me. No one ever did that," he thought. "Do you want to be friends?" he asked, hoping to have gained a friend, but looked devastated when she shook her head no, but brightened up when she said, "No, we won't be friends, we'll be family. By the way, I never got your name." "My name's Miley. My name is Naruto Namikaze." "Wait, Namikaze, as in the fourth Hokage?" "Minato Namikaze. Are you his son?" He nodded. She was beyond shocked that the villagers would treat the leader's child like that, and more that the Hokage would neglect his son for his daughter. It took a lot of persuasion from Naruto so she wouldn't go and rile up the village. "Well, since they hardly notice whether or not you're there, why not come to my place? I'll leave a shadow clone at your house transformed as you and keep my chakra low to avoid suspicion." She looked at Naruto, who was fidgeting, as if he wanted to say something. "If you want to say something, anything for that matter, you can ask me. I am your older sister now, aren't I?" Smiling brightly he asked. "I just wanted to ask if I could call you Ne-chan, instead of Miley." She nodded in approval. Then he continued, "And if you could train. Are you really strong?" He looked at her waiting for a reply. "Bro, where I come from, everyone sees me as the strongest, and of course I train you. Now come, let's go home." He looked at her with confusion. "My home is yours now as well, remember?" He nodded. Then she made a shadow clone, which then transformed into Naruto and went home. She and the real Naruto shined to her house, and what he saw was too much for a 5-year-old to take in all at once. In front of him was the most beautiful mansion that could ever be created. He looked in awe as they welcomed them in the front. As they came into the huge house, some of the maids and butlers looked at the poor boy covered in bandages, and asked his sister if they should clean him up. She refused, saying that she was going to do it herself, but instead asked for a bath to be ready for him as well as a set of new clothes. He didn't say a word, but was still absorbing the fact that his new older sister was super rich. Surprised? Don't be. Like I said, this is your house as well, okay? She said and received a nod from a still shocked little boy. Then she gathered all the maids and butlers and said, "Now I want you all to listen to me. This is Naruto and he is now my younger brother, so I want everyone to show him respect, okay?" They nodded, showing they understood, and then left. A maid came up to her and told her that her father was out and said won't be back in about a week's time. She nodded and turned her attention to Naruto. "Come on, I need to clean and heal you better. What I did at the park wasn't enough." She picked him up in her arms and then went to one of the rooms. As he looked inside, it was the largest room he had ever seen, but wasn't as shocked as earlier, deducing that everything in the house was big. He finally decided to ask, as she cleaned his wounds, "Ne-chan, can you tell me more about yourself?" Everyone here looks at with respect and they look sincerely happy and kind people. Now Naruto was a smart boy for his age, it just wasn't noticed by anyone. She laughed and asked, "Well, what do you want to know? Why were you at the village even though you don't live there?" "Well then, I guess I should tell you everything, huh? Well, first off, have you ever heard of the League of Assassins?" He shook his head no. Then she continued, "Well, you see, this league is a group of warriors that kill, assassinate people who the world would be better off without. My father is the leader of the league, known as Raz al Ghul, meaning the demon's head. As his daughter, I am the heiress to the demon. The league is greatly feared by the 5 nations, and since they don't have alliance with one another, they know they can't beat the league alone. Now, when I was about 3 years old, my mother, known as Serena Sheen, passed away from a horrible disease. Her final wish was for me to live in the Hidden Leaf and live a normal life, that didn't involve with fights and battles. My grandfather, which you have to first promise me that you won't tell a soul. I promise I won't tell anyone. Well, he's the 3rd Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and so he was able to pull some strings for me to get in. I lived in the village for about a year. My grandfather was so kind and I was able to meet the rest of my family. You see, my father never liked the way of the leaf, and even more hated shinobi, so he left the village, and was declared a missing nin. He was then exiled from the clan, not that he cared thought, and so started the league. Life was going on great, until that fateful day. The 9-tailed fox attacked the village, so in order to save it, he sacrificed his life by sealing it into a child, who I don't know. After that, since the village was unstable, my father brought me back, and I started to train in order to become stronger. I guess you could say I blamed myself for not saving my grandfather. And that's my story. She looked at the who she just finished healing. I'm really sorry for your losses. Both your mom and granddad sounded like nice people. But why are you returning now? Well, to be honest, never really technically left. I'm still allowed into the village. I guess it's because I wanted to get stronger on my own. I don't know if you know, but they don't teach you anything useful at the academy. You're going in 4 years, right? Yup, that when my so-called parents said that I would be able to start my training, but you're going to help me now, right? Of course, these 4 years will be filled with hellish training, but sweet relaxing baths and delicious meals afterwards. Our chef cooks the best meals ever. They both giggled, and then there was a knock on the door. Miley went to answer it, as it turned out to be a maid saying that the bath was ready, and handed her Naruto's new set of clothes. "Come on, our bath is ready." He looked at her in embarrassment, then she understood. "Don't worry, we're siblings and still young. We haven't matured yet, so it's alright. If you're not comfortable, then it's okay." He shook his head, and then they took a bath, put their new clothes on, and then went to sleep in her bed. It was the first time in his life that Naruto felt safe, at peace and loved. The next day, Naruto woke up and looked around. He wasn't in his dark cold room, but in a large luxurious room, on a spacious king-size bed. The memories of last night rushed into him and he remembered the most important things. I have a sister, someone who actually cares. He looked to his right to where she was sleeping, but couldn't find her. Where did she go? He thought. Calm down, Kit, she whispered to you while you slept that she would come back. He looked around the room and couldn't find anyone. Who was that? Then he was surrounded by sewage-looking water and a large cage. Well, what do we have here? I guess my jailer decided to honor me with his presence. He looked inside the cage and stammered, Kikubai? What are you doing here? Then remembering Miley's story that the third sealed it into a child, he understood. He understood everything. Why the villagers hate him and called him a demon. The thought he was the Kikubai. I guess you aren't dumb, Kit. Sorry you had to go through all that. But I'm glad that girl stopped you in time yesterday. Don't you know that if you die, so do I? But then again, you didn't know. Naruto just looked at the fox in shock. Can I ask, why did you attack the village? You don't seem like a bad fox. Ha 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 ha, Kit, you're really something else, aren't ya? Yeah, some blasted Uchiha started to control me, so yeah, it wasn't really my fault. Oh man, I just remembered. The third Hokage died because of you. What am I gonna tell Miley? She would probably hate me. And stop it, Kit. The girl is kind and she was telling the truth. Tell her, she'll understand. Now go back, some human is trying to get your attention. He came out of his mindscape and saw a maid coming to his direction. I see you're up. That great, I put your new set of clothes beside you along with a towel and toothbrush to freshen up. Is there anything specific that you would like to have for breakfast? Can I have some ramen please? He asked. Of course, I shall tell the chef immediately. As she was about to walk out the door, he stopped her and asked, do you know where Miley went? My lady went out in the morning saying she would be back in time for breakfast. It's almost 8 a.m. so she should be arriving once you come downstairs, she replied. Is there anything that I could help you with, my lord? No, but please just call me Naruto. He said, embarrassed that he would be called such a thing. The maid then began to giggle and said as she walked out, you are just like my lady Naruto-sama. He then brushed his teeth, took a bath and then went downstairs. As he was on his way, Miley came in and he was astonished. He was too tired to look at the girl last night, but now he saw a beautiful chocolate brown hair that reached all the way to her ankles. She had dark brown eyes or eyes since the other slightly covered by her bangs. Her skin was flawless and as he looked at her, she smiled a beautiful smile, showing her perfect white teeth. Who knew I was going to kill myself but then end up with such a beautiful sister, he thought. She looked at him and noticed that he wasn't moving, so snapped him out of it by pulling him to the dining hall. Namikaze's household and Namikaze's household went about their everyday lives. Going to the backyard, you can see a red-headed woman cheering on her daughter, who looked like a miniature version of her. This woman was Kushina Namikaze and her daughter, Naruto Namikaze. At the young age of 5, she already started her training in order to keep her brother at bay, just in case he ever went berserk. Sitting down there on a chair was the Yondaime Hokage, who his son was a perfect copy of, excluding the 3 whisker-like makers. He was proud of his daughter's strength and power at such a young age. As they went about as a perfect family, they all forgot about their son, brother, who also lived in the house but was denied training, being told his sister needed it more than him. As Naruto, shadow clone that was transformed, came out, he observed what was going on in the house. Miley's clone was going to see how Naruto's life was by getting first-hand experience. Hey, Tasan, he said. His father looked at him and asked, yes, Naruto. His mother and sister stopped and listened to the conversation. Can I please train with my sister? I know you said I would train at the academy, but just a little. I promise not to get in the way. Naruto, I already told you, later. All our attention is needed on your sister. You'll get to train when you start the academy. But why does she need it more than me? And why do the villagers always beat me and want me dead? He asked in a sad tone. There was silence and then, slap. His face stung and he looked up to see his mother, who had slapped him, looked angry and said, I told you over and over, don't lie to us. Now go outside and before I make you go to your room. She said. Naruto, don't lie about the villagers. We didn't teach you to lie, did we? His father said in a stern manner. The clone couldn't believe what was going on. So before anything could happen, ran outside of the compound and puffed away. Do you think we were a little harsh on him? I guess I shouldn't have slapped him. But he lies all the time about the villagers, they are such nice and kind people. Don't worry Kasan, he's just jealous that I'm seen as a hero and not him. Naruto spoke up. As much as she wanted to be a brat, she still cared for her brother, but always wondered to why he would lie about the villagers. They gave her so much presents on her birthday. Anyways, let's go back to training. And with that they resumed her training. Back at the mansion, as soon as the clone puffed away, all its memories went back to the original, Miley, and what had happened had shocked her. They would do that to such a sweet boy. And what's this? They're defending the villagers. Oh, these people have another thing coming at them and it ain't gonna be pretty. They were now at the dining hall, and as she looked at her new younger brother, she couldn't help but smile. He looked much more cheerful than when she first met him, but he had a worried expression on his face. What's wrong, bro? Remember I told you that you could tell me anything at all right? No secrets between us. He looked at her and smiled. He didn't want to lose her, but wanted her to like him even as a Jinchuriki. He took a deep breath and said, for better or worse, told her about this morning and his encounter with the Kyuubi. He looked at her, thinking that he would see a face of disgust and scorn, but instead her face showed one of realization. That makes a lot of sense. They think that you're the fox itself, you know, as in human form. But still, that's just pure idiocy. You and the fox are two different people, not the same. Why didn't you want to? She was cut off by his hug and sobs. She wondered why he was crying. I thought that you would hate me just like everyone else. I thought that you would blame me for your grandfather's death. I'm sorry, he sobbed. Shh, it's alright, I won't hate you, I promise. It wasn't your fault, you were a newborn, right? Actually, between the two of us I guess I should be the one saying sorry. He looked at her in confusion, and she continued as she wiped his tears away. My grandfather put the fox in you, which is why you had that horrid life. I'm really sorry. Nope, we didn't do anything. Let's just leave it, okay? Besides, he told me that he was being controlled by an Uchiha. You mean the Kyuubi? Wait, you talked to him? Yeah, he seemed really nice. Thought. Say, after breakfast can we start our training? Of course. By the way, my clone just puffed away and I received its memories. Why don't your parents believe you when you say that the villagers want you dead? What kind of parents are they? Forget about them. I mean the Hokage and his family can do whatever they want. I always wanted their acceptance, but now that I have you, I don't care. He had enough and didn't care about his former family. He liked his sister and was content with what he had. They finished their meal and as they were about to leave, one of the maids tripped over and the dishes were about to hit the ground along with the maid herself, but were stopped midair. Naruto looked around at the mind-blowing state. He didn't know what was going on until the maid thanked Miley. He turned and saw her hand raised in the air, as she gently placed down the maid and the dishes. In an unknown language, thank you my lady, I'm sorry for causing a scene. She bowed. In the same language, it's alright, just be more careful later on. Naruto looked at her from the maid and then again to her. He didn't understand what was going on nor did he know the language. Miley looked at him and smiled. She was going to teach him so much that the other shinobi and the village would envy him. What did you guys say, and what was that power of ours? I've never seen anything like it. I guess I should tell you about my mother's Kekkei Genkai. You see, I am more of my mother than my father, meaning I inherited her clan's Kekkei Genkai, that involves demons. They were all slaughtered though, and when they were going to kill my mother, my father came in time and saved her. I guess that's how they first met and fell in love, but whatever. Anyways, the reason as to why her clan was killed is because they had the strongest powers known to humankind. When I say they can transform into demons, I mean humanoid demons, demons with a human look. What runs through my blood is my mother's demon blood. I can't transform just yet, but I've unlocked most of my powers. One of them was what you saw earlier, telekinesis. Even if I don't transform, I could still use the powers. Other abilities I have are flight, and I'm also immune to poison. Call it weird, but I actually gain power from it. Then I started going out doing missions for the League, and because of my powers and my so-called attitude when battling, I became known as the She-Devil. It isn't a bad name, but nah, I don't care. Oh, and I almost forgot, I also specialize in swordsmanship. It actually runs in my blood. Both my parents are well known as the best in that field. It's what actually makes people fear my old man. After my mother died, I took her sword and found out something really special about it. It doesn't kill people at all. He looked at her as if she was crazy, and then she giggled at his expression and continued as they walked to the combat field. Yeah, I had the same expression at first too, but my dad told me that my mother had a soft heart, that didn't even go hard after witnessing the destruction of her clan, and didn't want to harm people at all. So what her sword does is that, if a person gets stabbed with it, they are in a state of suspended animation. Do you know what that means? He shook his head no. It means that a person is in a state where they are alive but won't wake up. Like a coma? Something like that. During that time, however, they are in an amount of unbelievable pain and torture and can only come out of it when the sword is tapped onto their body. However, in order to not fight again, they are immobilized for about an hour's time until they could move again. Then she summoned a sword out of smoke, and there was a sword that had the carvings of a dragon in green and silver. This, she said, is my mother's sword, the green dragon blade, and along with my father's sword, the black shadow, they are the most legendary swords in existence till today. After her long explanation of what she could do, Naruto just looked at her in awe. He already admired her and now he just respected her more. I have the coolest sister ever. You sure do, Kit. If you want, I could also help with your training. I don't like those villagers on bit, thinking that I'm a brat human. How pathetic. Hey Coot, what's your real name? I don't think Nine-Tailed Fox is your real name. You're a bright boy, brat. It's Kuruma. Hey, tell your sis to travel to your mindscape. We should both teach you to get strong. Hey Nei-chan, Kuruma wants to meet you. He said to come into my mindscape. Can you do that? Who's Kuruma? The Kyuubi. Sure, why not? And with that they were inside his mindscape. She looked up and saw a cage, and inside it was the Nine-Tailed Fox. Hey there, little girl. You know, for a little human, you sure are quite kind. Who would have known that such humans existed? Ha ha ha. Anyways, sorry for your loss, but you gonna train this kid, right? Well, I'm gonna help too. It's better than doing absolute nothing all day. You know, you're not that bad, Kuruma. I guess you already know my name and sure you could help with his training. She turned to Naruto and said, Naruto, we are gonna make you into the most envied and respected shinobi that they ever saw. But first tell me, why do you want to train and get stronger? She thought that he might want to think about it, but he gave her a reply, an unexpected and at the same time expected reply. I want revenge. Revenge against every villager that hurt me and against my family who ignored me. I want them to regret what they did to me and make them regret ever neglecting me. He said coldly. Kit, you sure? I'm with you all the way, just don't change your mind later on. Okay then, let's get your training started. So that's it for today, guys. If you like this story and want more, then please subscribe and turn on the bell icon. Until then, take care and goodbye.